There's nothing quite like a day at the state fair. There are rides, games, and more crazy fried foods than you could probably ever dared to dream of. Lucky for you, we've made an exhaustive list so that you can try and figure out how you might fare with the fair at the fair. By which we mean, today, we're going to take a look at every crazy food you can find at a state fair. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other event foods you would like to hear about. Okay, we hope you're ready to hear the terms deep fried and on a stick repeated a lot. According to the good people at Merriam-Webster, a fair is a gathering of buyers and sellers at a particular place and time for trade. The history of fairs is a little cloudy, but one thing that's very clear is that people have been going to fairs for a really long time. How long? Well, the Old Testament's Book of Ezekiel talks up the ancient city of Tarshish by calling attention to the multitude of the kinds of riches with silver, iron, tin, and lead they traded in thy fairs. So we're talking about a practice that's thousands and thousands of years old. As for America, King George II was sponsoring agricultural fairs for the English colonists in the New World at least as early as 1745. And in 1811, a Massachusetts farmer named Elkanah Watson became the so-called father of U.S. agricultural fairs when he organized the first county agricultural fair on behalf of the Berkshire Agricultural Society. That first one was really more of an animal show where prizes were given out to sheep and cattle with riz, but it would evolve to include exhibits about manufacturing, dances, and a parade. The success of Watson's Fair would inspire similar events in other states, many of which became long-running traditions. By the end of the 19th century, railroads had turbocharged the popularity of state fairs by making them cheap and easy to attend. In an era before the internet, television, and even radio, they were the places Americans were most likely to see cutting-edge technological developments. And that wasn't going to change for a while. For example, state fairs would be the first place Americans would get a look at things like electric lights and automobiles. Over the 20th century, however, the U.S. economy became increasingly more industrial and less agricultural. Following the trends, state fairs became less about things like who had the best-looking pig, and more about things like games, rides, and concerts, and some of the craziest foods you've ever imagined. If you've been to a county fair recently, then you know the teacup ride is actually the least likely thing there to upset your stomach. And that's because pretty much everything they now sell to eat is some deep-fried monstrosity practically guaranteed to take years off your life. But it wasn't always that way. Deep-fried treats like corn dogs, french fries, and funnel cakes became a part of the state fair culinary landscape starting in the late 1980s. By the 1990s and early aughts, deep-fried fair foods, including candy bars and Twinkies, were becoming something of a cultural phenomenon. This was at least partially due to the State Fair of Texas's widely popular Big Tex Choice Awards, which judges deep-fried treats and then crowns winners in the categories of most creative and best taste. Since then, the whole thing has gotten a bit out of control. In the spirit of crazy memeable foods and the KFC Double Down, snack vendors at state fairs now seem to be locked in an eternal game of one-upmanship. They're all looking to come up with the craziest, most unlikely sounding, and attention-grabbing fried treats, knowing that fairgoers will buy them just for the novelty and tell their friends. And it's big business. More than a few state fairs make tens of millions of dollars on food every year. Okay, so imagine you've already arrived at the fair early in the AM and you need a balanced breakfast to start your day. No need to panic. The fair has pancakes with butter, eggs, bacon, donuts, and coffee. So, all the usual stuff, just maybe not how you're used to having it. For example, those pancakes? They're part of the pancake burger you can find at the Nebraska State Fair. And they'll come with a burger topped by trimmings and your choice of condiments. That includes maple syrup, of course, because, you know, pancakes. Also, that butter? It's deep-fried. They make deep-fried butter by dipping balls of frozen butter in sweetened buttermilk batter and then deep-frying them. The treat, which was original to the Texas State Fair and is now fairly ubiquitous, has been compared to an inside-out pancake that is the batter on the outside and the melted butter within. Naturally, the eggs are also deep-fried. At the Arkansas State Fair, for example, they take a hard-boiled egg, dip it in batter and oil, and then serve it with a variety of dipping sauces like sweet and sour or jalapeno ranch. And of course, no one expects you to have eggs without bacon. If you're at the Maui County Fair, you might opt for the chicken fried bacon. And bacon-wrapped caramel apples are available at fairs everywhere. For the record, that's an apple on a stick, dipped in melted caramel with bacon sprinkled on top, wrapped around it, or both. After that, if you still have room for a donut and 3 cheeseburgers, we recommend hitting the Iowa State Fair for the triple cheeseburger donut. It's a Krispy Kreme donut sliced in half with 3 beef patties and 6 slices of American cheese stuffed between them. Finally, you'll want that nice hot cup of coffee. But since this is a fair, it's going to be a deep-fried coffee. Okay, it's not a beverage. Deep-fried coffee is actually donut balls that have been infused with coffee and then fried up. But maybe that all sounds like too much work and you only want to make one stop for your breakfast. Well, the Minnesota State Fair has you covered with their breakfast on a stick. That's a sausage patty, Canadian bacon, an egg, and 2 types of cheese sandwiched between 2 pancakes, deep-fried, and then placed on a stick for your convenience. But don't fill up, there's still 2 more meals, snacks, and dessert to go. After that skimpy breakfast, you'll probably want to do some snacking while you make your way about the fairgrounds. We've all heard about the deep-fried Oreos and deep-fried Snickers, but we recommend starting with something light, like the deep-fried jelly beans. That's another fair snack that made its first appearance in Texas, but is now found pretty much everywhere. The Massachusetts State Fair, for example, has a version where the jelly beans are rolled in funnel cake batter, fried, and then doused in powdered sugar. Similarly gooey and delicious is the deep-fried bubblegum. Despite the name, it's not actually gum, because apparently gum doesn't really fry well. Instead, it's marshmallow with bubblegum flavoring, deep-fried into something that will make you forget all about regular old gum. But maybe you don't want deep-fried candy, for some crazy reason. Maybe you want something a little bit healthier. Well, if that's the case, be on the lookout for a pickle pop. It's essentially a pickle-flavored ice pop that has 0 calories. And incidentally, if you're seriously into pickles, you can increasingly find Kool-Aid pickles at fairs. They're pickles marinated in Kool-Aid, which makes them both sweet and sour. Unfortunately though, there's no Kool-Aid pickle man to burst through your wall yelling, "Oh yeah!" The Illinois State Fair is famous for their tornado potato, which is a thin swirl of fried potato wrapped around a stick, basically making it a giant spiral french fry. And at the North Carolina State Fair, you should hunt down the deep-fried Girl Scout cookies, which include both deep-fried Samoas and deep-fried Thin Mints. Also, be on the lookout for things like deep-fried Kool-Aid, deep-fried cookie dough on a stick, Snap, Crackle, and Fluff on a stick, deep-fried beer, and giant deep-fried gummy bears. Okay, you've had a hearty breakfast and managed to snack your way to the afternoon. It's time to start thinking about lunch and maybe even what you'll be having for dinner later. Obviously, you're going to have to try the deep-fried scorpions. Now, you're probably assuming that just like with the deep-fried bubblegum, the name is just a name. It doesn't really have scorpions in it, right? Wrong.
Oh, whoa. The pop.
They're literally just fried scorpions, and you can get them at the Arizona State Fair, where all sorts of fried bugs are becoming increasingly popular, and they come plain or chocolate covered. And if scorpions aren't the predator you'd prefer to have deep fried and served to you on the way to the Tilt-A-Whirl, you can always get the fried alligator on a stick. Yes, it's an alligator that's been skewered and deep fried. And in case you're curious, people who have had it say it tastes like pork, and has a texture like veal. If scorpions and alligators sound too dangerous, however, you might just want to go for the seemingly safer shrimp corn dog, which is shrimp on a stick dipped in corn dog batter. On the other hand, if you're at the Minnesota State Fair, you might want to grab the spaghetti and meatballs on a stick. If you're wondering how they get spaghetti and meatballs, of all things, to stay on a stick, the answer is that they're mashed into balls, dunked in garlic butter, and then in the deep fryer. And of course, some marinara sauce is usually drizzled on top. If all that sounds too heavy for you, you might just want a nice salad. But it's the fair, so it'll have to be salad on a stick. That's another one from Iowa, and it's just what it sounds like. Lettuce, cherry tomatoes, and chunks of cheese on a stick. Sure, maybe it doesn't sound as filling as something like the Krispy Kreme Sloppy Joe, which is also a real fair food, but it's nice to know the fair vendors didn't forget about the salad folks. Other storied state fair entrees include the deep-fried pig ears you can get at the Minnesota State Fair, the deep-fried peanut butter and jelly they love down at the Virginia State Fair, and the deep-fried White Castle burgers at California's Orange County Fair. Finally, if you finished your whole breakfast on a stick, tornado potato, deep-fried scorpion, and whatever other crazy crap you bought to eat, then you've earned yourself dessert, State Fair style. And if you're at the Utah State Fair, then that probably means deep-fried green Jell-O, which is, well, deep-fried green Jell-O. At the Wisconsin State Fair, it means deep-fried s'mores, which are graham crackers, marshmallows, and chocolate, dunked in pancake batter and deep-fried. Just one bite and you'll say, "Please, sir, I want s'more." At the Tennessee State Fair, they've been serving deep-fried goo-goo clusters since way back in 1912. So William Howard Taft might have had a few when he was president, if that means anything to you. And why wouldn't he? They're deep-fried marshmallows, peanuts, caramel, and chocolate. Other goodies you might grab for your fair dessert include the hot beef sundae, spaghetti ice cream, chocolate-covered deep-fried cheesecake, bacon-covered cinnamon rolls, and deep-fried taco cheesecake. So now that you know what's out there, we recommend going right to your local state fair and figuring out for yourself which of these crazy foods is the fairest of them all. So what do you think? And what's your favorite thing to eat at a fair? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History.